Welcome to our third session of the afternoon, Health and Black Joy. Our panelists are Hanan Ibrahim and Kamara Mikel. Um, Hanan Ibrahim is a graduating senior, double majoring in biomedical sciences and Africana studies here at the University of South Florida, where she is part of the Judy Ginshaft Honors College. She's first generation Ethiopian American and spent her childhood and adolescent years in Ethiopia and Kenya. Her research interests lie in global health, health disparities, and infectious diseases. She's worked as an intern in PEPFAR, Zambia, is involved in research studying different viruses and maternal health disparities, and is actively involved in her community as a residential assistant and medical support team intern with Envision Resolution. She plans to pursue a Master of Public Health and ultimately get her Doctor of Medicine. She has a passion for helping marginalized communities, and through obtaining higher education, she wants to continue work with minority communities, both in the U.S. and globally, as a physician with a public health background. Fantastic. Kamara Mikel is a dynamic speaker, author, and certified mental health coach with over 25 years of corporate experience. She's the founder and CEO of Coach Kamara's Certified Mental Health Coaches, where she specializes in providing coaching services to individuals and organizations, emphasizing practical, affordable solutions to mental health challenges. A seasoned businesswoman, Kamara holds an MBA, a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and an associate's degree in paralegal studies. She's also the author of Kept My Enemy Closer, a compelling memoir about her personal battle with depression. Kamara is deeply passionate about empowering others and inspiring audiences to overcome challenges and embrace mental health wellness. Each speaker will present for about 15 minutes, after which we'll open the door for discussion and Q&A. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hanan Ibrahim, and today I'll be presenting on Afro-Asian groups in Sri Lanka and India. So this is just an extension of a summary of my Africana Studies capstone research paper. So starting off with who the Afro-Asian people are. Afro-Asian people represent a unique diasporic group around Southeast and South Asia, shaped by colonialism, forced migration, and global trade. They have often been overlooked in mainstream discussions of South Asian and African history. And the aim of this presentation is basically to open up the discussion about their existence and their experiences living in their societies. The two populations I'll be focusing on are the Afro-Asian groups in India, or the Sidis, and the Afro-Sri Lankans, who are commonly regarded as the Kafirs. When I was initially doing my research, this topic was unfamiliar to me, so I wanted a question that I would be able to grasp a bigger picture of. Hence, this project was guided by this research question in order to explore how the Afro-Sri Lankan and Sidi communities navigate cultural preservation, social integration, and socioeconomic and health inequalities. To answer this question, my methodology included conducting a literature review. The research itself was guided by two intersecting frameworks from Sari McDougall III's Research Methods in Africana Studies book, the Afrocentric paradigm and the Pan-African paradigm. The Afrocentric paradigm centers African-descended experiences using the three pyramidal elements of Afrocentricity: grounding, which situates the study in the African diaspora; orientation, which examines specific struggles and achievements; and perspective, which emphasizes empowerment and resilience. The Pan-African paradigm complements this by exploring shared African heritage and diasporic solidarity. I believe that looking at the literature through these lenses is ultimately what connects back to today's conference theme of Black Joy. So through examining the literature, I found that a lot of the research could be boiled down to 5 key ideas or themes that I'll be presenting on today: relocation, impact of colonialism, names and origins, marginalization, and cultural evolution. Starting with relocation. So the Sidis are primarily located now in Gujarat and Karnataka states in India, with their population being around 250,000 people. Their migration to India stemmed from trade networks and the Islamic Empire expansion. In the 1300s, the Bahmani Empire brought Africans as mercenaries. However, later they dispersed across India as soldiers, guards, miners, and agricultural workers. Some, like Malik Ambar, rose to power, founding the kingdoms of Janjira and Sanchin. The largest influx, however, occurred between the 17th and 19th century when the Portuguese transported Africans to India via the transoceanic slave trade. And over here is the Afro-Sri Lankans, who were originally from Mozambique, and they are brought to Sri Lanka as slaves by the Portuguese in 1630, and they were trained for warfare. And geographically, they were previously spread across cities like Nangombo, Jaffna, and Puttalam, with the largest remaining community now residing in Puttalam. Their population today is estimated to be around 200 to 1,000 people all over Sri Lanka. So colonialism, particularly under the Portuguese rule, disrupted the Sidi population's sociocultural dynamics in India. Before the European colonization, Sidis held diverse roles in society, as I mentioned before. However, when the Portuguese came, their colonial practices dehumanized the African slaves that they brought, causing many Africans to now flee and form Sidi settlements in the forests of Gao and other Indian states. These spaces served as a refuge for them and to preserve their culture and autonomy. And the treatment of the Portuguese to the Africans, however, they left a lasting effect, which changed the dynamic that the Indian people once had with the African Sidis. In Sri Lanka, colonialism shaped the Afro-Sri Lankan population through Portuguese, Dutch, and British rule. Unlike the Sidis in India that held different roles at different time periods, Afro-Sri Lankans were primarily used for labor and military purposes. The Portuguese and British deployed them in battles against the Sinhalese rebels, and often as using them as tools of fear and suppression. It's likely that their roles in these terror campaigns and military services contributed to them being left with a negative reputation that shaped their social and geographic isolation in the country. Another aspect of Afro-Asian history I want to touch on was the etymology of the ascribed names of Sidi and Kafir that were given to these people. There are a couple theories of what the term Sidi means. However, it is known that it has an Arabic origin, and it's reference to Sayyads, or the Muslim rulers in India. This term also previously replaced Habashi, which was the original name for the Sidis given to them before the Portuguese came. However, because it became associated with negative connotations, the Sidis now prefer to be called Sidi or Sidi Badsha, which means Sidi king. The Kafirs are Afro-Sri Lankans. Kafir is considered a derogatory name to the Afro-Sri Lankans, and it originates from the Arabic word meaning non-believer, and this term was introduced through colonialism. With the negative connotations associated with the word, the Afro-Sri Lankans now assert the identity as Afro-Sri Lankan and reject the term Kafir. So moving on to marginalization. So the Sidis face systemic marginalization across education, employment, healthcare, and social status. To summarize a few points that I explored in my research, there are low literacy rates, which remain a major obstacle to economic growth, with the dropout rates being high due to financial pressures and dissatisfaction with government schooling. Because of the high dropout rates, there are also limited job opportunities, which further exacerbate their inequalities. Although some Sidis find income through tourism, specifically performing their different cultural dances, the access to these opportunities is uneven, which again deepens the existing divide. And this financial inequality then leads to their limited access to healthcare. Government facilities provide free consultations through mobile health vans, but out-of-pocket medication causes financial burdens. And also the lack of tailored services from the government facilities as well drives many to want to get better healthcare through private healthcare. But again, that also causes a financial strain. So it's all in all a perpetuating cycle. And a lot of the population, especially the older population, holds a greater emphasis on traditional remedies. And I think it's because also as much as their traditional healthcare system is shaped by their culture, it's also shaped by their circumstances. There's also sociocultural discrimination that isolates their community, with accounts of racial prejudice and subjection to degrading treatment. Their physical features, such as their curly hair, have been stigmatized and leading some to reject their Sidi identity. Similar to the Sidis, the Afro-Sri Lankans also faced marginalization socially and economically. A lot of them, especially the younger generation, faced social stigma due to their physical appearance, and as a result, attempt to alter their appearance in hopes of assimilating better. I included this image of the Sri Lankan census data, which includes all the different ethnicities, even minority ethnicities, such as Malays and Eurasians. However, it doesn't include the Afro-Sri Lankans as their own ethnicity, and instead they're categorized in the others section. And I believe this lack of recognition significantly impacts their sense of identity and their access to rights. Geographically as well, the Afro-Sri Lankans often live in spatially segregated areas. These areas are known as watas, which is seen as their designated spaces. And this physical segregation reinforces their cultural and social divide and limits their opportunities for integration. However, centering this discussion on the theme of Black joy is the positive cultural evolution of these groups. A major turning point for the CD population was the fight for scheduled tribe status, which united the community. This is a designation in India given to indigenous communities that are recognized by the government for special assistance and protection. These communities are now recognized for that, and that has reshaped their self-identification, with a lot of them now adopting CD as their official surname in order to also access the benefits, which reinforces their collective identity. Technology and globalization as well has further connected CDs across India and even spread to other Afro-Asian populations in Pakistan. This created unity between previously isolated groups. With this newfound unity, they've been able to hold protests when they've been previously treated unjustly by the government. And they've been able to use influential Black figures such as Nelson Mandela and the Black Power symbol as part of their protests, which again emphasizes their connection to their Black roots. The Afro-Sri Lankan community as well has demonstrated both cultural resilience and assimilation while navigating their identity. The resilience is evident in their efforts to preserve their traditions despite marginalization and declining numbers. The Ceylon African Manja group is one way that the Afro-Sri Lankans retain their culture. It's a music band that blends African rhythms with local influences. Their performances not only promote their culture, but also serve as a source of their income. However, due to assimilation, with their declining numbers and intermarriages, over 90% of their marriages now occur outside of their community. And this demographic shift has led to the gradual loss of their distinct African morphological features, as you can see in the younger generations compared to the older generations. So while integration has allowed for more acceptance, it's also contributed to the erasure of the unique Afro-Sri Lankan identity over time. All in all, the cultural evolutions of the CDs and the Afro-Sri Lankans relate to Black joy, specifically in finding joy in the resilience of maintaining culture while being marginalized groups. For the CDs, this is seen through their achievement of their scheduled tribe status and the unity formed, as well as through their globalization efforts, which has allowed for the expansion of their community ties. For the Afro-Sri Lankans, we see this through their practicing of traditions and keeping it alive, regardless of their diminishing population. Both the CDs and the Afro-Sri Lankans continue to face challenges, though, in achieving full societal integration, particularly regarding social cultural attitudes and economic opportunities. While efforts have been made, more needs to be done in order to support these communities in ways that empower them to maintain their distinct cultural identities rather than forcing assimilation. For the Afro-Sri Lankans, whose population is small and increasingly intermixed, the risk of cultural extinction is particularly pressing. Unlike the CDs, who have a larger population to fall back on with more collective organizational strength, the Afro-Sri Lankans lack the manpower to fully mobilize effectively against any systemic injustices. This topic is not widely known, even within Africana studies. Much of the discourse on the African diaspora has been centered on the Atlantic slave trade. However, as a student and as fellow scholars of Africana studies, we should aim to expand our knowledge and advocacy to include overlooked populations. Just as the histories of Afro-Latin communities have recently gained prominence, we must also uplift and preserve the narratives of lesser-known populations. In doing so, we ensure that the history of African-descended people worldwide is recognized, celebrated, and preserved for future generations. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I think we all need to wake up. I didn't know. I thought we were going to have cold sandwiches. I think we all have the itis because we had a black lunch. So I'm stuffed. So anyways, sorry. Okay, so he already gave the introduction. I'm Kamara Mikel, better known as Coach Kamara, and I am the CEO of Coach Kamara Certified Mental Health Coaches. So my presentation will be more like a talk because I'm a layperson. I'm not a therapist. I'm a mental health coach. I won't be as deep as her. I'm like, man, I'm up here with all these smart people. So anyway, I have a book that I authored based on my personal battle with depression. I've been in therapy myself this is the 20th year. So before COVID, it wasn't cool to say you've been in therapy. And then COVID happened, and now everybody's like, oh, I'm in therapy. And I'm like, I've been in therapy since 2005, before most of y'all were probably even born. So anyways, and I wrote a book back in the end of 2019, and it's on Amazon, but it just chronicles my battle with depression. I also have a podcast, which is on hiatus now until this summer because it's been so busy. Thank God for that. So we're here to celebrate, reclaim, and amplify. Can y'all hear me? Black joy is a powerful form of resistance, healing, healing and identify while fostering meaningful conversations about mental health, empowerment, and collective well-being. So I'll just give you a few stats. So in the United States, 1 in every 5 adults lives with a mental health challenges. So think of the people in this room. 1 out of a group of 5 struggles with a mental health challenge or has had a mental health episode. 39% of college students, 39% of college students have suffered mental health episodes. That is huge. Of that, 60% of students drop out of college citing mental health as a primary reason. That is huge. So the gap. So many people are hesitant to seek therapy due to stigma, cost, or lack of access. Mental health coaching, which is what I do, is a cost-effective, stigma-free alternative. Wouldn't you rather say, "Oh, I have a mental health coach," than to say, "Oh, I go to therapy for depression"? So I fall somewhere between a therapist and a life coach. So I help get people unstuck. I give you short-term tools to help you to navigate depression, boundaries, grief, trauma, loss, things like that. But I'm not a quick fix. I don't deal with your trauma. I give you tools to move you forward at a faster pace than therapy would, but as an alternative to therapy. What is Black joy? Black joy is just beyond happiness. To me, happiness is like a surface thing. Happiness is fleeting, it comes and goes. But joy, to me, it's innate, it's embedded in your soul. And as a Black person, we have been through some stuff, and somehow we still somehow have joy. We're resilient. Focuses on the resilience and strength it represents. Black joy is an act of resistance to centuries of oppression. I think that all Black people could be in the fetal position somewhere. When you think about the trauma, when we watched the film, they didn't show a whole lot of the oppression. They showed a lot, some beatings, but just what Black people have been through, we are resilient and we don't tire easily. It's the celebration of life and survival amidst adversity. We don't want to be political, but look what has always gone on. But look what's starting with civil rights. Encroaching on Civil Rights Act of 1964. We got a lot facing us as people, period, but as a people of minority people. Why Black joy matters in mental health. Black joy is crucial in the context of mental health, a tool for healing, resilience, and resistance. Stats or data on the mental health disparities in Black communities. There are higher rates of stress, trauma, and mental health issues. For Black people, mental health often gets overshadowed by historical trauma, systematic oppression, and ongoing marginalization. Isn't it sad, though, that of all of the hundreds of years of oppression, this is 2025, and we are still going through stuff, and it probably will always be that way. I'm not trying to be down about the future, but I think it'll always be these issues as long as there are people who think that they are better than us, that they don't want to. It's like they can't stand to be around us, and it's like, what are you afraid of? We're just people just like you. We just have a different hue of skin. That's it. We're the same. How celebrating joys helps combat the emotional tolls that these challenges impose. We're looked at, we're always singing and dancing and, being funny. And what else do we have? We better find a way to keep ourselves going and motivated, or we would be in the fetal position. We have to find ways, and we're naturally funny. We naturally socialize. It's our culture that we are, that's embedded in us. That's who we are, and that's how we survive. And if that's the way that we survive, then that is the way that we survive. Resistance through cultural practices, family, art, music, and communal support. anybody, I was talking about lunch today and it being so heavy with soul food, but y'all ever think about on Sundays, like my mom is 84. My mom still cooks Sunday dinners with the food like y'all had for lunch today. And literally, and we sit and we're not thinking about that's like therapy. That's like mental health coaching. We're sitting there, we're talking about stuff that happened during the week or when we were young growing up, and all of that helps to spark the positive side of mental health, whether we know it or not, or whether we realize it or not. Sunday dinner, soul food, the movie Soul Food, it's like that is enriched and ingrained in us, and it keeps us moving until, I'm glad to see my mom and my daughter and my grandson, and it's like that keeps us until the next Sunday when we meet up again. It's something about that's mental health therapy for us, whether we know it or not, something so natural and normal to us as a Sunday dinner, a soul food dinner. How reclaiming spaces of joy leads to healing and mental empowerment. Sometimes we have to reclaim who we are and what we do. And I remember my last birthday in November, I turned 58, and I just remember saying, like, I had to reclaim myself because I was just thinking, it is over for you. Like, I'll be 60 next year. And it's like, no, it's not. I had to get out of my own head and realize that I have so much more life ahead of me. And that's a part of resistance and reclaiming, and know that you still matter. I don't care if I was 95 years old, I still matter. We all in this room, we still matter no matter what color you are. We're talking about Black joy, but you have to reclaim and remind yourself of who you are. And that's a part of what we do in mental health coaching. We're helping you to get mentally unstuck. And what better person to help you than me, because I have to do it to myself all the time. Why Black joy in action? Juneteenth celebrations, music and dance, gospel, jazz, hip hop. They touched on that today. Black family traditions, like I was talking about with soul food, and social movements. Black communities collaborate in collective celebrations and traditions. We're always having music festivals, reggae, jazz. It's like we have such a culture about us. And Black joy, look at this. Black joy celebrations are often seen as defiance in the face of oppressive systems. We still know how to have a good time no matter what. The importance of community and healing, the power of community support in fostering Black joy and promoting mental health. There are a lot of support groups that you can go to that are free in the community for mental health. I'm sure they have some on campus here. When I had a really bad bout with depression back in 2018, I remember joining a support group at St. Joseph's Women's Hospital, and we just met, and then after a while, I made a lot of progress, and I was able to become a certified peer facilitator. But I just look at, and not trying to insert myself, but like I said, what better person to tell you that you can get unstuck than me? Because I know what it's like to go into depression. And when I was diagnosed in 2005, I was non-functional. I was like bedridden from depression. And most people go, you? I'm like, yes, me. I was bedridden. I ended up losing my job for 12 years because I couldn't function. I couldn't go to work. So they let me go, which put me in another state of depression. And then I had another really bad bout in 2018 where I was actually Baker acted twice for suicidal ideation. So in my book, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I open myself up, because why hide if you can help the next person? Why would I stand up here like, yes, and just tell you all these great things? And it's like, I've had some battles in my life, but I stand before you on the other side of it. But I still go to therapy because I think it's important. Initially I was in therapy 3 times a week. That's how bad it was. And now I see my therapist maybe once every 2 or 3 months just to check in. She is like my confidential paid friend. Because I know whatever I tell her, she can't tell anybody. She's stuck. So anyways, so Black community supporting mental well-being. Black joy isn't just personal, it's communal, and community support systems are vital for mental health healing. Okay, so the practical tips for embracing Black joy: celebrate small wins, support each other in times of hardship, prioritize fun and relaxation, actively seek joy and celebration in our own lives, how to prioritize mental health through joy and community, and closing, an invitation for reflection, reflecting on our own sources of joy. Most of us are able to sometimes pull ourselves up, from the bottom and, try to remember who we are and what we've been through and that we're resilient and think about what our ancestors went through. I don't know about y'all, but I couldn't have possibly lived through what they lived through. I couldn't have done it. I collapsed under mostly nothing now. It's like I wouldn't have survived it. So just knowing what they've been through and the opportunities that it has afforded us should give us some sense of Black joy. So call to action to embrace Black joy as a form of healing, incorporating more joy into our own lives and communities. And finally, and I'm going to say one thing after this, but finally, in the words of actor and humanitarian Jesse Williams, I didn't know about him until 2020 with how much time do I have? Okay. Yeah, thank you. So Jesse Williams received in 2016 the BT Humanitarian Award. I don't know if y'all saw that one. I didn't know he existed. I didn't know who he was. And he just said something that was so deep and it was so simple about all of the oppression, how they want our talent, but they want to discard us. And I was just like, wow. But one thing he said that summed it all up, he said, as Black people, oh, good, thank you. Okay. Sorry, I have to pay for your equipment. He said something that was so great. He said, just because we're magic doesn't mean we're not real. And I was just like, bam, like that was really something. But real quick, I'm just going to quote something that changed my life back in 2003. Y'all know who Oprah is. She did a thing. She has a thing in her magazine. I don't even know if she has a magazine. It's called What I Know for Sure. So this was geared to women, but I'm going to gear it to Black joy. So I'm going to make a little changes and hopefully I'll remember it. So this is what I'm going to say, and hopefully this will kind of empower you. It says, I now understand that the true measure of Black joy is exactly what I had avoided for so long, which is to be filled with all of who I am. Beginning when we're young, we're taught to deflect praise. We apologize for our accomplishments. We try to level the field with our family and friends by downplaying our brilliance. We settle for the passenger seat when we long to drive. It's why so many of us have been willing to hide our light instead of being filled with all of the passion and purpose that enables us to offer our best to the world. We empty ourselves in an effort to silence our critics. Marianne Williamson once said that our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure. The truth is, the naysayers in your life, those who seek to pull you down, every time you exceed their expectation for you, can never be fully satisfied. Whether you hide or shine, they'll always feel threatened because they don't believe they are enough. Every time you suppress some part of yourself or allow others to play you small, you are in essence ignoring the owner's manual your creator gave you and destroying your design. What I know for sure is this: we are built not to shrink down to less, but to blossom into more, to be more splendid, to be more extraordinary, to use every single moment to fill yourself up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a brief minute or two for any questions. Do we have any questions for the panel? Well, I'll make a quick comment then. Thank you all for your work, and I have to say that resilience and Black joy, that continues to be a constant theme that we see in a lot of research in both of these projects. That our people, no matter where we are, we've always faced so much turmoil, so much hate, so much fear. Yet when we have ourselves, we have joy. And we always have to remember that both at the individual level and at the structural level, I'm a sociologist, so I got to talk about the structural level, to maintain our joy, maintain the systems that allow us within our own communities to have that joy and to spread that joy as well. So thank you all very much. Last call for any questions. All right, okay, so thank you all very much for a wonderful panel. and great discussion. Thank you. Clap again. Clap again.